Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you all are doing good. So in today's session, students, we are going to talk about the chapter demand, which is a part of your microeconomics. So whenever we talk about demand, there are three things to be kept in mind. And mostly this is a question being asked in most of the interviews where they just simply ask you what is a demand. So in that case, never to give a theoretical interpretation. So when we talk about demand, three things are: first is the desire, second is your ability to pay, and your third is your willingness to spend. So this actually determines the demand for a commodity at a particular point of time in a year. Right, now let's move forward. So when we talk about demand, how much do we need to produce and at what price we need to charge? These are the few questions that come to the mind whenever we set any objective for demand, that why are we studying this topic, what are the factors that actually determine the demand, and what kind of a relationship exists between the price and the demand. And when we talk about the concept demand, we always have to remember and memorize that we have to think from the point of view of a consumer. While you were doing production possibility curve, PPC, you were thinking from the point of view of a producer. Now whenever you are demanding a commodity, you have to think what will be the consumer's pattern, how will the consumer behave, and in that case, again, understanding consumer behavior is utmost important. So as I told you, these are the three main pointers that are to be kept in mind, right? Never to give a theoretical interpretation that it determines the demand of a commodity at particular prices over a particular period of time. That we know, that's absolutely fine, but practically you should understand that the demand will be fulfilled only when there is a desire to purchase that commodity. Let's say you went to a mall, you need to purchase few commodities, you want to have you went to the fashion brands and you want to purchase a jeans. And what will happen, firstly you will select and your liking will be there, so your desire will be there to purchase a commodity. Then you will see the price tag, you will see that are you willing to spend that much amount for that particular jeans. That will determine your willingness to pay and the ability to spend. So your affordability, your willingness to pay that much amount will determine, and when these three things are fulfilled, then you will say, yes, I would like to demand this particular commodity and I will purchase it at a specific price. Okay, now again, in economics, each and every concept hold a different significance. While we talk about demand, while we talk about quantity demanded, these are not the same things. They have to be interpreted in a different way. Whenever we say the point demand, okay, so we are generally referring that there are various possible quantities and the consumer is willing to buy these quantities at these many prices. So that combination is what we call it as demand. But when we say that we are demanding, quantity demanded is there, so we are talking of some specific price, right? I will use this term quantity demanded when I will talk about some specific price. Let's say, how do I spell it? I'll say that at price 7, my quantity demanded is 10 units. At price 8, my quantity demanded is 9 units. So I am setting my specific price and accordingly I am determining my quantity demanded. And when we talk about demand, we say that these are the various prices and these are the demand for these particular respective prices. Clear? Okay, now schedule in the economics, it represents and it talks about the tabular presentation. Okay, so whenever we call demand schedule, we are talking about a tabular presentation where there are different prices, and as per these prices, these are the quantity demanded. At 50, the quantity demanded is 10, and so on. And when we talk about the term curve, demand curve, this is generally the graphical representation. So the definition is also very well mentioned here. So whenever in a graphical manner we are interpreting, demand, we call it by the terminology in economics as demand curve, where price is on the y-axis and the quantity demanded is on the x-axis. Now in this particular diagram, you can see that the demand curve is downward sloping. At point A, OP is the price that's been set, and OQ is the quantity demanded. So you see, you use the word quantity demanded. At point B, when the price falls from OP to OP1, your quantity demanded increases from OQ to OQ1. Now why is it downward sloping? We'll study it in the following slides. Now the next term is your individual demand. Individual demand particularly talks about one buyer, one firm. So this is actually representing individual, means what a particular buyer is demanding with the respective prices, their respective quantity demanded. So we can say that Akash demand for good X is following. So we are talking about one particular buyer only, right? So there will be different quantities of the commodity with different prices, but for one buyer only. We are starting consumer's pattern. Demand will always be required by a buyer. That could be in any form. That buyer could be an individual, that buyer could be an individual firm also, right? And market demand, it says when all the buyers, when all the firms are demanding the quantity at the respective prices, right? And this is very, very important, that market demand is the horizontal submission of the individual demand curve, and this is one of the hot question which has been asked time again. So all of you to kindly refer to this, and it's very, very important. I'll repeat, market demand is the horizontal summation of the individual demand curve. So this is how the equation is represented, where we say that DM is the market demand, and these are all the respective individual demands for you can say for buyer 1, 2 and so on, right? And this, when we sum it up till n, that it represents that there are n buyers, or you can say n consumers. Now this is how the market demand schedule look like. The price is a unique thing. Price never changes. It's the quantity demanded that changes with the respective prices. So we can say that there is a consumer A and there's a consumer B. These are the individual quantity demanded. So at price 1, consumer A is demanding 4 units, however consumer B is demanding 5 units. So when you add them up, you get 9 as the market demand at price 1. At price 2, the consumer A is demanding 3 units, consumer B is demanding 4 units, and the subsequent market demand at price 2 will be 7 units. So this is how the your tabular representation is given, and it's represented by market demand schedule. And this is nothing but the market demand curve, where it says that market demand curve is the horizontal summation of your individual demand curve. So you can very well see over here, see what we have done in the previous slide. We have just taken these values and we have presented over here, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, and we have made, this is the quantity, these are the prices. So first what we did, we portrayed the A's demand curve, it's a downward sloping. Then again we did the same for the B demand curve. Now at these respective prices, you can see what we are doing. Since I told you that the price will remain same, so we can start from price 1. So this is 4 units and this is 5 units. So you are adding it horizontally. 5 plus 4, 9. So you put it over here. At price 2, 3 units are demanded, 4 units by consumer B. Add them up, you get 7 units. So it's a horizontal summation. Similarly at price 3, so what are you doing? You are horizontally adding it up, and that is why the terminology is there, the statement is there, where it says that market demand curve is the horizontal summation of the individual demand curve, right? And this is very well and very nicely explained in Sandeep Garg also. You can refer from there. And the diagram, when you are drawing, it should always look like this. Horizontally only you have to place it. Now, very important and again very very interesting also, that what are the factors that actually determine the demand. First, since you have studied two kind of demand, individual and market demand, so we'll study each and every factor in detail. So these are few checks to it. Each one of this will be studied in detail. Let's first study about the individual demand curve. So these are the factors. Now dx is the we can say that dx is the demand for the commodity X, where factors is the own price, px represents the own price, pr is the price of related goods which has substitute goods, and your complementary. Okay, so then consumers income, taste and preferences, and the consumers expectation. So okay, the first one is price of own commodity. We are studying the first factor. So they are saying generally what happens, you whenever you see the online sale also, let's say bumper offer, Diwali bumper sale in Amazon, Flipkart, or offline also when the summer and winter seasons are there and you get 50% off, right? So what happened? Items are generally out of stock, malls are all occupied and crowded with the customers over there, right? And you see the scenario similarly whenever there is no change in the price, no prices have decreased. You see the condition of the malls, it's all whenever something has been sold out at the MRP prices, so you see that not much consumers are there, right, as compared to when we used to have the 50%, 60% off scenario. And the same goes for online also. So what can we interpret from here? We simply say that whenever the price of a particular commodity it increases, the normal tendency says that the quantity demanded is actually decreased. Similarly, when the prices are decreasing, what will happen? The quantity demanded will increase. So what kind of a relationship is it has been established? It shows you an inverse relationship, right? A negative relationship. So first thing, in the first factor, we have understood that the price of a given commodity X and the quantity demanded of the given commodity X are both inversely related, negatively related. That's the relationship that we have established. Now let's peep into the next factor, which is your price of related commodities. The first one says substitute goods. So substitute goods are those goods which can be substituted for each other. Let's say if we are using toothpaste, we have Colgate and Pepsodent. If we are using soaps, we have Lux, we have Dove, we have Pears. If we are using coffee, we can say we have Brew, we have Nescafe, right? So what happens when we have a particular substitute good? And one of the very famous and very old example is that of the Coca-Cola and Pepsi. So you can see in this particular picture, it simply says that if, let's say, the Coca-Cola is our commodity X. Now, if the price of commodity X is rising, what will happen? People will shift to the substitute, which is a Pepsi, because they say, the price of Coca-Cola has increased. Let's move towards the substitute goods. So this is how, we can say, right? Like over here, it's mentioned when the price of Coca-Cola increases, less people will be demanding Coca-Cola, because they say the Pepsi is also there and somewhat they are substitutes only. So I would like to rather go for Pepsi to save little bugs. So what do you see? What kind of a relationship here we have? Positive relationship between the quantity of Pepsi and the price of Coca-Cola, both the substitutes. So this kind of a relationship shows a positive relationship, right? So substitute goods always portray a positive relationship between the price of a good X and the demand for its competitive good Y, which is a substitute. The next is your complementary goods. What kind of goods are complementary? Like we can say petrol and car, diesel and car, pen and ink, which both the things that work jointly together, which are being used together in the process, right? So which complement each other. And again we can say that, you know, whenever the price of petrol increases, now the demand for the petrol cars is also decreasing. That's why nowadays you can see on roads also we have electric cars. So it's a very apt example to state, and a very realistic example, that whenever the price of petrol or diesel is increasing, people are trying to save their long-term cost and they would rather like to shift to the electric cars, or they might, you know, go to other modes of transportation like metro, buses and so on. So what kind of a relation does complementary goods have? Again, it has a negative and an inverse relationship is established, which is different from the substitute. Substitute goods have a positive relationship. However, the complementary goods, they have a negative relationship. Okay, moving ahead. Now, very important, in order to understand the other factors, first we need to bifurcate the normal goods and the other kinds of goods. Now, you know, normal goods are those goods, if your income is increasing, you are demanding more of that particular good. That's a normal good, and there is no particular definition of what a normal good and what an inferior good is. For each and every consumer, the inferior good might be different, which means for one, it might, the same good might be a normal good, and for the other, the same good might be an inferior good. So it all depends on the income level. If you know you have a lower income level, so even a normal commodity might be an inferior for you. And if you have a high income, then, you know, all goods you might be considering it as a normal good. It won't be that much inferior for you. So it all depends on the income level. There is no, you know, it's a very relative concept. There is no for sure definition only that this defines or that defines a good as a normal and the inferior goods. It totally depends on your income level, right? So if the income is increasing and you're buying more of that commodity, maybe a necessity, comfort or luxury good, that will be considered as a normal. And when your income is increasing, let's say, we have a lot of varieties of rice, basmati rice and a little lower grade variety. So when your income was low, you were purchasing a low quality rice, but as your income increased, you thought, now my income level have increased, I would like to have a better quality of rice, and I would rather like to have the basmati rice now. So what are you doing? As your income level is increasing, you are not demanding more of that lower quantity rice. You are shifting your preference to a higher quality rice, which is a basmati rice. So when your income increases, you buy less of that inferior, you know, good. So in that case, you will define that particular good as the inferior good. So this is a tabular representation, differences between the two. So normal goods always, you know, income level is the third factor that we are studying. So as per that income level, normal goods always portray a positive relationship, which means as your income increases, you demand more of the quantity, and the inferior good, it shows a negative relationship, that as your income increases, you demand less of that quantity. So this, it shows a positive relationship, and here inferior, it shows a negative relationship. And you know, it says that these are all the essentials for life, and this may not or may be an essential for life. Like a normal good in nowadays, it can be a television, basmati rice, shirts, pure milk. And what are the inferior? Coarse grains, coarse cloth, toned milk. All these could be your inferior goods. Only, you know, we say there are a lot of varieties in the milk also. So a toned milk might be an inferior good, but a A+ quality milk might be a normal good for a person. So that's why change in income, that's the third factor that we are studying. So if the income is increasing and you are demanding less of that commodity, that will be an inferior good. And if you are demanding more of that quantity with the increase in income, that might be your normal good. Next, fourth factor is your taste and preferences. Now your taste and preferences might be towards a lot of things, the changing fashion trends, the eating habits. So if you are preferring more towards the junk, like you can say burger, coffee, we have Tim Hortons, Starbucks coming up, and you are very particular that I would like to have that particular coffee only, that brand only. So your taste and preference is quite understandable. So if like we say that during the Diwali season there are more of diyas and candles, demand goes up. During the Holi season we have more of the rangoli colors and holy colors in demand. Similarly, each and every particular climate and fashion has their own significance. So a positive taste and preference will increase the demand, and unfavorable taste, or you do not very particular about it, will decrease the quantity demanded. The next is the expectations. Now you expect that in the future the prices of the tomato is going to rise, which actually happened. Now it has come back to normal somewhere. But if you are expecting that now it is 90, then it will be 100, and I am assuming that in the next month it might go to 150, 160, so I would like to build up my stock right now. I like to purchase it today only, so that I can save myself from paying the inflated price. So whenever that happens, we say that expectations also determine the demand. That could be in any sense. In summer season, we can say that the demand for your ACs will increase, and during winters the demand for heaters and geysers will increase. So it is, everything is quite logic. And also when we talk about, you can see gold, that we think we can purchase the gold now. The price is going to increase during the Akshaya Tritiya, during the Diwali, and in the near future also. So what will happen with that speculation, with that expectation? You are increasing the demand now, right? So that also determines, these expectations also determines your demand for a particular commodity. So this was the factors that we have just studied right now. It determines the individual demand. However, there are some more factors where the market demand function is there. So the first one, it says population size or the number of buyers. If there is a new product in the market, or someone is very particular about a particular brand, then you say that new buyers will be entering the market, and when that particular pattern is studied, more quantity will be produced, and accordingly more quantity is demanded. Like we can say that there are when the iPhones were introduced, all of them demanded, right? And also we can say now if 15 is going to launch, we know that the buyers are going to increase, the demand is there. So automatically whenever there is more buyers, more people demanding a particular good, in that case the quantity demanded for that particular good also rises, shows a positive relation. And let's say there are not much buyers for a particular product, so definitely the demand will also decrease. The next is the distribution of income. Very, very important. Now, if a particular good has an equitable distribution of income is there in an economy, inequality is lesser and lesser, the income disparity gap is lesser, in that case more goods, normal goods will be demanded. However, if there is unequal distribution of income, let's say there are more of the rich people in the economy and less of the poor, or maybe more of the poor people in the economy and less of the rich, then there will be a disparity in the quantity demanded also, right? So as we are saying that the rich are becoming richer and the poor are becoming poorer. So in case there's an equal distribution of income, then demand, more demand will occur in the economy. But however, if there is unequal distribution, where we say there are more of the poor people and less of the rich people, because the good will be demanded by the people who have more of the income. And if in an economy the inequality is quite prevalent, which says that rich people are lesser, of course then the market demand will also be very fluctuating, right? So then we have a question over here. So these are some MCQ based question where some question says match the following, some says match the pair. So over here you have normal goods. You have to identify which is a normal. Substitute, we just studied over here, Coke and Pepsi, right? Coarse grain, the word itself says it's an inferior, right? And Normal goods, they have a positive relationship, because complementary cannot have, and complementary represents milk and sugar. So you can see the first is D, second is C, third is B, and fourth is A. Absolutely. So law of demand, again, it's a very interesting topic which we will cover now in the next class. And with this law of demand, we'll also study what kind of a curve we have in the demand, and why that curve is existing, and is there any exception to the law of demand. So this we are going to cover in the next class, students. I hope you liked and understood the session, for the introductory session for the demand. In case you have any doubts, you can always put it in the comment section, and do like and subscribe to my channel if you are gaining some knowledge out of it. Okay, thank you everyone for watching.